Hi guys, Greg here, and today we have the next episode, video. Yes, we've got yet another banger out of the Super Mario Odyssey universe, and I'm looking forward to talking about it and what makes it sound cool, in my opinion. As always, you can do all the great stuff like liking the video and subscribing. Yep, you. Subscribe, please. Please, subscribe. And you can always catch me on Twitch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Let's get going. In the last video on music of Super Mario Odyssey, we looked at the Cascade Kingdom and Fossil Falls with its grand orchestral score and a good example of catchy movie theme style writing. This week we're off to the Sand Kingdom with its expansive sand dunes and sometimes upside down pyramid. Because, yeah, why not? And its suitably Eastern sounding soundtrack. So how do we go about making our music sound like it's from far off lands? In our last video we talked about the major scale, a solid place to start as it makes up the majority of Western music. But each major scale also has a corresponding minor scale, which is found by altering a few pitches. These are the main two, but this just scratches the surface of a bunch of different scales that we can choose to write melodies in. A group of scales that crop up quite often are called the modes, and these have been in use for ages. Without diving down yet another music history rabbit hole, a few hundred years ago, something called equal temperament was brought in to try and simplify tuning all instruments. This standardised an equal distance between all the increments between pitches in an octave. Lots of words there. This just meant that now all tones were now equally far apart, as were all semitones. What am I doing with my hands? I'm flipping boiler room DJing right here. But this makes it so you can play any piece you want in a different key and it still sounds the same. Albeit higher or lower in pitch. It also made modulation, meaning changing from one key to another, much more easily achievable and made for more developed compositions. Before this revolution, where composers could easily jump between keys, a different method was used to colour pieces, and this was by using modes. Imagine we only have one scale to work with then. We're going to use C. This is all we have now. Okay, C is love, C is life. No pitches from any other keys available to us. If we wrote all our music entirely in one key, we would be a pop musician. Hey, I'm here all week, guys, yeah. I joke, but it would be dull. So to get some spice in my life, what if I took the notes available to me and decided that D was now my tonic? You, at the back, have you been paying attention to last week's video? A quick reminder, a tonic is our home notes, what the melody centres around and almost certainly finishes on. So the normal pattern of a major scale is whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, half tone. But if our scale started on D, we have the pattern of whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone. Now D major normally has some altered notes in it. F is sharpened, meaning raised in pitch a half step from normal F, as is C in order to sound like the major scale. But if we only knew the pitches of C major, D to D wouldn't be a major scale anymore, as the gaps between each of the pitches wouldn't fit the pattern of a major scale because of the F and C natural we now have. We're left with then what is called a mode, more specifically the Dorian mode. And there are 7. Each of these has a unique pattern and as such a unique sound to it. So I spend some of my time teaching the trumpet, and one of my students, when we were first discussing like scales that I wanted him to practice, they probably never did practice, and so I'd start off by I played a C major scale and a C minor scale, and I'd ask him, so what do you think sounds different about these two scales? And usually, you get the classic sort of statement that, oh, C major is happy and C minor is sad, but he turned around and said, oh, that minor scale sounds like a snake charmer. And it almost brought a tear to my eye. I mentally awarded him the Greg Bush Rising Star of Musicianship badge right there and then. Because he had, without even knowing maybe, he had recognised that a lot of Eastern music relies on the use of a scale very similar to a minor scale, and is a scale of one of the 7 modes. The Phrygian mode. What a name. So imagine we were in C major again. The Phrygian mode would be the mode we get if we started on E. Now to get from a normal E major scale to the Phrygian mode, we have to flatten the 2nd, 3rd, 6th and 7th. meaning the pitch is lowered by a half step. And this leaves us with a particularly dark sounding scale. The flattened second of the scale in particular is the real crunchy one to me. And the first 3 notes of the scale alone remind me of Egyptian music or one of the marches from Indiana Jones. So I think modes are cool because they are so distinctive. Whereas, you're changing from one major key to another major key, each mode does create like a different kind of mood, like different feel. One downside to writing solely in modes, solely in modes. Writing a whole piece like solely in a mode is that it can leave your music feeling like it lacks direction, as it's not as easy to establish a sense of home or like your tonic. This is an advantage of using the modern sort of system with keys and such. Looking at the Tostarena ruins from the Sand Kingdom then, listening to the intro we can hear that the music is definitely minor sounding. We're clearly in F sharp, as by looking at the bass line, which loops the same couple of bars around and around, we see that it always lands on F sharp on beat 1, which is the strongest beat of the bar. The fact that G naturals are here suggests that something else is going on. In the scale of F sharp minor, we should still have some G sharps. The repeated use of G naturals and the sense that F sharp is our home note or tonic shows that we are in the F sharp Phrygian mode. Remember what I said about it being hard to establish a sense of a home key using modal writing? The composer knows this, and that's why the bass line only moves a semitone and a tone either side of F sharp. Any further and there will be a danger the piece might sound like it's falling into a different key. To demonstrate this lack of groundedness, if you like, in one key, the melody actually switches between the use of A naturals and A sharp throughout the piece, as by using an A sharp we're just slipping into a very similar scale of B minor, which is almost identical to F sharp Phrygian. The melody when it comes in, I think it's played on some kind of panpipes, and it's heavily ornamented, which is a fancy word we'd used to say is quite decorated or flowery. If you listen carefully to the melody, you can hear times where a very quick note is played before landing on the main note of the tune. These are called grace notes, or if you want to have a laugh, you can use their proper names. Akiakaturas. Ugh, bless you. Melodies and music played by smaller ensembles, like in folk musics, tend to be more heavily ornamented, as you're granted a lot more freedom when you don't have to fit in with lots of other people playing around you. What I really like about this piece is it's like a mashup between a couple of musics that you would typically associate with like deserts or like landscapes. We've got this one theme played on the panpipes that is, to me, echoing a kind of those snake charmer kind of vibes we spoke about from, say, Egypt or like Arabia. And then we've got this second theme on electric guitar. This guitar sounds particularly smooth when it slides from one note to another, and that's because the musician playing the guitar is using a technique called slide guitar or bottleneck guitar. So this works by you have a little thingamabob over your finger, and then on the neck of the guitar as you're playing, instead of pressing down in between the frets now, which would lock into each note, you get dun, dun, you'd have a definitive kind of jump between the pitch. Great demonstration, Greg. Now you slide smoothly, like there's no sort of break in between each of the pitches. It's called bottleneck because the thing with bob on your finger would have been, in unruly western towns, probably the neck of a bottle, probably taken from the last bar brawl you started over someone calling your hat rubbish. That's probably what happened. This kind of style screams badassery of the Wild West and is the other half of this marriage of desert-themed music. Cool, right? These two ideas operate in a kind of musical conversation, handing the melody back and forth between each other until we get a climax where both these worlds are brought together. Finally, the static bass line lets loose, drawing on another Latin American influence with a dance-style bass line. This kind of bass line is driving and funky for quite a few reasons, but rhythm will have to come in another kingdom. That's all we have for today then. If you ever have any questions about stuff I've rambled about or I haven't explained properly, then please let me know in the comments down below. What's some video game music that really sticks with you as being an absolute banger? And yeah, I shall catch you on my stream or next time we do a video. Great stuff. Thanks for watching and bye for now.